Hey everybody, this week's Roundup is brought to you by Arcane Wonders and their new tile-laying game, Foundations of Metropolis. And I suspect a lot of people are going to be very excited about this, because a few years ago, Arcane Wonders published a very big hit game, Foundations of Rome. And it was known both for its beautiful, elegant, simplistic, and yet incredibly deep gameplay, and also for its lavish, incredibly expensive production, where every single tile you build as you're laying the foundations of Rome was actually a gorgeous little miniature. Well, that proved to be a little bit too expensive for most folks, and so now Arcane Wonders is transplanting the same brilliant gameplay from ancient Rome and putting it in our own modern day as we are building up modern metropolises. And I gotta say, folks, I can totally see the reason that this game got so much praise and made so many top 10 of the year lists when it was originally published as Foundations of Rome, because it's so smooth, it's so silky. You just buy up plots of land, trying to make sure you can get the right stuff at the right time so that you can build your buildings and score lots of points. And it almost has a classic feel, like a Ticket to Ride or an early Reiner Knizia game. And I know that means my good buddy Ruel is going to love it. And in fact, folks, if you'd like to see this in action, there's going to be a link down in the show notes to watch Ruel do a run through of this game. Anyway, it's finally available, folks, for those who have been waiting years to get a chance to play designer Emerson Matsuuchi's masterpiece. You might want to check out Foundations of Metropolis. Information is down in the show notes, and now let's get on with the show.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to the R&R Show. This is episode 96. We're going to be talking about our top 12 cooperative games in 2024. And as I say that, I just realized not 12. We're going to do 10 today because
we're going to do 10.
We gotta get out of the habit.
We're changing the format a little bit of the show, where we are going to. Oops! And I just gave away the number one. The number 10.
No, that's a red herring.
That is a red herring.
Don't worry. While Ruel does that, we are doing the top 10 co-op games, and I'm excited about this change of format. Generally, it's the three of us, and then Richard interjects and gives his sort of number 8, number 4, number 1, or whatever they are, 9, 5, and 1. But this time we said, Richard, get out of here. We don't watch anymore. 10 is just a nice solid number. So we're going to do the first 9, the three of us. We're going to go back and forth and do the first 9. And then Richard's going to pop in and give the honorary number 1 best co-op game of all time. And then also, if you click down below, there is an extended version of this show where you can see more picks. So Richard will probably share his full list there. We will give our honorable mentions. And that's how the show is going to proceed. But before we do that, I do want to fill in on our sponsor, because I am super friggin' excited that Foundations of Metropolis exists. I would like to crown myself the king of cheap. And so getting something that usually it goes the other way around. You know, usually it is like, oh, something is basic and then it gets deluxified. I see that in like anniversary editions. I love that Arcane Wonders has taken this game and has pulled it down for the cheapies like me, but has also kept the one thing that they did keep were those player trays that I saw in that preview. And I was very excited because that also means that you're getting like a budget version with still ease of setup. 2 of my favorite things. And so I'm just like, friggin' thrilled that this existed. Foundation Metropolis, it was on my like things to look at for Gen Con list, and I'm just so excited that I can just be excited about them for sponsoring the show. So thanks, Arcane Wonders, and great job. Keep up the good work.
Yes. Thank you, Chris. Folks, be sure to click on the link below. You can see me and my buddy Daryl play through an entire game, Foundation Metropolis. And spoiler alert, we really enjoyed the game. So check that out. And it's been a while since we've done the R&R show. As you can tell, I'm pressing all kinds of buttons that don't do anything correctly. But we're excited to be here with you. Ray and I saw each other at Gen Con. We talked about some of the experiences we had there during the pre-show. So be sure to click on that extended edition. Ray and Chris, are we ready to jump into things here for the cooperative games list?
Yeah. No.
If you missed the pre-show, I complained and moaned a bunch about how I don't like co-op games. So I'm here under duress, but I will do my best.
Nice.
Yeah, you really should check out the extended edition because we spent most of it. Sometimes we spend it doing fun nonsense, which you
Truly,
should do
yeah.
and hang out with us. But today we were actually on topic, so there's more
We
co-op
were.
conversations about
Yeah.
co-op, solo games, and trauma.
That's
And
right.
trauma. We
Yeah.
had a little mini Chris therapist session.
It was
in the
great. The
pre-show.
therapy,
Truly was a delight.
Yeah, I thought the
Not
therapy
real
was
trauma.
great,
Not real
folks. So be
trauma.
sure to check out that extended edition. Chris, why don't we kick things off with number 10, and that's going to be your choice, my friend.
I'm ready for number 10.
All right.
I'm going to
Right,
think
hit
about
us.
it. I'm going to pull it from the air. Nobody's heard about this
Yep.
before. No one's seen it yet on the screen. It's Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
What?
Honestly, I'm glad that you put it up there because I forgot what order I put these in. So it was just beneficial for me.
Folks.
Really, Pandemic Legacy Season 1, 2015, number 2 on Board Game Geek. You have heard about this game numerous times. You've heard it. Pandemic sort of pioneered the genre in terms of the co-op games, and I think Pandemic Legacy is the ultimate version of that system. It is one of the best experiences I've had in board gaming, and I still haven't finished the campaign, and it is still so high up for me because the pandemic happened when we were playing it, and then like most groups in the pandemic, well, we didn't get back together, but we will get back together. We've been actively like trying to find time, but we're all like just busy with different schedules. We're all actors, so we all travel a lot, and so like a lot of contracts have been in juxtaposition with each other. But Pandemic Legacy is just a phenomenal experience. I would recommend it to anyone who enjoys co-op games. If you like the base Pandemic, you owe it to yourself to play this game. If you have always wanted to try a legacy game, this is the legacy game that made everybody go crazy for legacy games and campaign games. Like, this game is so instrumental in terms of what its ripple effect it's had on the industry. And there's a good reason for that, because it just knocked it out of the park. It just blew it out of the water. It's so cool how the game evolves and how every time you get an outbreak in a city, that city becomes a little bit more chaotic. It becomes a little bit more rioting. They are mad that things are outbreaking in their city, and they are responding to it. And then it becomes harder to do things down the line. There are like really lasting ramifications in this legacy aspect, and it's just incredible. So I put it up as number 3, not as my number 1, because I think there are so many things about this system that I enjoy, that it's not just the cooperative aspect that I enjoy. I try to rank things based upon how much I enjoy the like specific co-op nature, how much I enjoy working together with someone. That kind of defined my list, but it still earns its spot just because of everything that's going on with it. And it's so fun to go on the experience with other people as well. Honestly, I should probably switch this and the other one that I'm putting higher up, but I didn't. So we're starting off with a bang. That's Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Nice. Yeah, I know. Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Ruel.
Oh, I'll go ahead. I know Richard loves this one. It might be his number 1 on his personal list. Me, I loved it as well. This was the game that really showed me like you could have this almost like a limited series, mini series, like something on like HBO done in board game form, because that's what this was, right? You played the campaign, and the narrative was really strong. And there's, again, if you haven't played, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's this one point in this game and my like jaw literally dropped, like what just happened here? And it was amazing. And I still, I get goosebumps thinking about it. It was such a great narrative and story arc. Having said that, I did the same thing, Chris, where I got about 7 games in and our group fell apart. And it wasn't because of the pandemic. It was just my stepdaughter was in our group and she went off to college, and we were only going to play when she came back, and she came back, but then she didn't always want to play games, which is cool. I'm not going to force her to play games. So we finished it like I think 2 years later, and it was still fine, but at the same time, if you wait that long, then it's like you forget all the rules that had changed and stuff. And so we completed it, but it sort of fizzled out. However, those first 7 games were absolutely amazing, and I would highly recommend this experience for anyone.
Oh man, now I want to play it. It's like
You haven't played
this
it?
is one of those games that no, I've not played it. I've
Oh,
not
it's
played it.
yeah, you good. You have to.
Yeah.
It's
I struggle with campaign games. I've moved a
yeah.
lot over the last few years, and it's just I'm someone who will get like really torn up if I invest in something and we don't finish it. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I will it like thinking about that in terms of like D&D games and stuff. Like if a D&D game like doesn't, if we don't conclude, if like things fall apart, I get very it like hurts me emotionally, like in a
Yeah.
way that's not fun. Not to get too deep with it, but that's why I've never played this game before. But I do think one of the comments you made, Chris, about how this pioneered a genre of legacy games, this really did. I can definitely comment to the legacy game craze that happened after this, and it's really cool that the same IP did that twice. So like original
Yep.
Pandemic pioneered the concept of co-op games. It popularized the concept of co-op games, and it's really cool that Pandemic Legacy it obviously wasn't the first legacy game, but it was the one that brought it into like the mainstream.
Yep.
Which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
For sure. It's so good that like I still haven't finished season 1, but I went out and bought season 2. It's in Shrink, and I saw season 0 on Facebook like literally 4 months ago. I said this will go perfectly beside my unfinished copy of season
Yep.
1 and my non-open copy of season 2. But it is that good that I know I'm going to get to it eventually, and I think it would be a great thing to do with 2 people, because I know like just a
Yeah.
pairing, because
Oh,
Yeah.
because
maybe
I
I'll
think
do
like
that.
I think it would scale well. You don't need a full 4. I think having like a large group of people makes the chances of finishing it less.
Yep.
So, but even just doing
Mm.
it with 2 people, and if
I
you're
actually didn't
good,
know that was a viable. I didn't know. I've only ever heard of people playing in
yeah.
big groups.
Oh
So
no,
Yeah.
two
I
two
could,
people.
we
It's
could
2
You
to
could
4,
totally do 2.
and what's good is if you're really good at the game, Ray. Not that you're competitive or anything, but if you're really
No.
good, it'll only
What?
take you 12 games to complete once a
There you
month.
go.
You can
That's right.
you can
Okay.
play. It can take you up to 24
Yeah.
to get 2 shots in a month, but if you win on the first attempt each month, you just move on in the story. So
Yeah. There
I
you go.
see. I see.
I mean, we
Alright.
did win the first 4 months.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
that's I'm just throwing down the gauntlet. You got to win 5 in a row if
There
you
you
want to
go.
All
beat
right,
my
that's
score.
what I need to incentivize me to play these types of games. Is I need a PR to beat. I need something to
There you
beat.
go. Nice. Great choice, Chris. Number 10, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Let's move on to number 9. And Ray, I believe this one is yours.
This is mine. So my number 9, I hinted to it a little bit in the pre-show that one of my games on this list is a real-time game, and that game is Kites.
Nice.
This game is a real-time sand timer flipping game, and that's it. And I love it. Time for number 8. That's it. You flip sand timers in real time. Bada bing. That's all it is. This is one of those games that probably someone's gonna be like, "That's not a board game," and I'm telling you directly, I don't care. I don't care.
Bada
I
bing.
love this game. Bada bing, bada boom. That's it. You got yourself a board game. No, this is a real-time sand timer flipping game. Basically, it's a hand shedding game. You've got a handful of kites that are various colors. They correspond to colored sand timers on the table. So if you've got a hand, you might have like a purple kite and a yellow kite and maybe a kite that's got 2 oranges or something. And you go around the table in real time, playing one card at a time and flipping the corresponding sand timer. The different sand timers go at different speeds. And your goal is that these sand timers are representing kites that are up in the air, and you're trying to always keep them in the air and never let them touch the ground. And you're trying to do that quickly and chaotically, and it has a really fun element of communication where it's like, well, the orange kite really needs to be flipped, but I don't have any oranges, so I'm just going to play this so that it can get to you because you do have an orange kite. It's just chaotic and ridiculous. We mentioned this again in the pre-show. I'm not big into co-op games, but a through line that I do really enjoy is when there's an interesting communication barrier, and just the real-time chaos of this game is great for that. I love that. I also love that you're fighting against, again, the thing with me in co-op games is I don't like feeling like I'm fighting nothing, like I'm just fighting the rule book. I don't enjoy that particularly. In this, I love that time is real, and the sand timers are going, and there's nothing you could do about it. You just have to play fast, and it's so short and chaotic and fun that I forget that there's no competition. You're just trying to beat the clock. I like these kind of short, small, experimental games when it comes to co-op games. So yeah, my only kind of critique on this list, and the only reason why it's lower than my other ones, is I'm not a big fan of the challenge cards that are included. I think they tried to like add in some more gamey elements to it. I play with them sometimes, but I really just like this at its base form of just it's a real-time hand shedding game, I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, great choice, Ray. I agree with you. I just give me the base, and it's. I
Yeah,
don't know what it
that's
is.
all I
Even though it's a
need.
cooperative game, I get the sweats like it's a competitive game, right?
I
'Cause-
love that
right?
feeling though. It really
Yeah.
does get. It's
I
so
love the
simple, and
sweats.
The sweats.
it's so simple. Yeah, I love the sweats. I love that it makes me. Again, my issue with co-op games is I don't know. They don't make me feel something. There's not the
Yeah.
highs and lows of
Mm-hmm.
competition, and adding in a real time element is enough for me to get that emotional,
Yep.
feeling. So yeah, I love this game. It's super simple. It's one of those things where you're like, well, how hasn't someone already done this? But they were the first to do it, and I think it's really fun.
Agreed.
Well, there's no harder competitor than time itself.
Truly, I need something like that to fight against
Yep.
to really get me in the mood for a co-op game.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Such a good game. Great choice. That's number 9, Kites. We're going to move on to number 8, which is my choice. And for mine, I took a game that I've talked about several times on the show and here on the R&R show. It's number 8, Paperback. This is a word-based game. I've always called it Dominion meets Scrabble. This I'm showing the 10th anniversary edition, which just came out recently, and there is a solo mode here that they include, but it's also you can play it cooperatively as well. And basically what you're trying to do is spell words in order to take off the victory points, which are on the left side of the screen there, and you're trying to grab all of those. They're worth different victory points. They require different amount of money or as you generate income, just like any deck builder. But the cool thing about this version is you have different abilities that you can use. You can trigger, and then like the AI that you're playing against also has abilities. So it's really, really good. I highly recommend this. I'm not going to spend too long talking about it because I've talked about it plenty on this show. I just think Paperback is an awesome word game. Probably my favorite word game of all time. And when it comes to cooperative play, this does it really, really well. Especially if like one player, sometimes you find this in word games where one player may be a little, I don't know, have a better vocabulary or whatever. I think that this evens it out because of the type of gameplay it has. And that's why I chose it for our collective number 8, Paperback.
Nice. Yeah, I still haven't played it. I would love it. I love word games. I love deck building.
This is your jam, Chris.
Paperback
seriously.
is great.
Yeah.
I've only ever played it competitively. I'm shocked,
Yeah.
but I like it in competitive form.
Yeah,
So
I do
if
too.
you like co-op games,
Yeah.
it sounds like the core gameplay loop translates really well to a
It does.
co-op game. So
Yep.
yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. Okay, let's move on now to our number 7, which we're going to go back to Chris this time for number 7.
Number 7 is also a classic. It's well regarded by a ton of people. It is very high up on Board Game Geek. I want to say number 14. That's my bet. I'm going to check it while I say it. It's Spirit Island. Spirit
Nice.
Island is the game, which on BGG is
I'm just
number
kind
11.
of bummed that you actually listed a highly
11.
regarded game. I really wanted you to pull out like a Yum Yum Island or something. Like this is classic.
Wrong
so
island,
highly
Chris.
regarded.
Yeah, you
I
know,
really,
wrong island.
I was really hoping for a bait and switch.
That is a much better joke, and I would like to change it.
Yes.
To
actually, the actual classic, highly regarded game, Spirit Island. Yes,
Magic Maze. That's no. I was looking at my list is very like vanilla, but there's a reason why it's up there, right? Like Spirit Island is the reason I like this. Spirit Island is because it's a weird one to put on a top list for co-ops because you don't really interact with the people that you're playing with. And what I mean by that is there's too much going on. Like I really like to describe my moves when I play co-op games, and I like to say, "What did you do? What did you do?" And Spirit Island to me feels a bit more like a trust fall because I say, "I can't think about whatever you're doing. I'm going to play this, and I've got this land covered. I got this land covered. Do something to deal with those lands." And they say, "Yep." And then we go back and we put our heads down. And so, like, arguably in terms of the co-op nature, this should maybe fall a little bit further down on my list because if I'm rating them based upon how much I enjoy the co-op experience. But there's something nice about having a meaty puzzle to share with a friend, and the one that is so meaty that you cannot have an alpha player, right? Or if you do, then it becomes an excruciating 7-hour experience, and then you realize that you never want that person in your life again. So like really a win-win for both things that are coming out. But yeah, there's just the loop of Spirit Island, the asymmetry of the factions, everything contributes to you working together in a tense way, but never stepping on each other's toes. But then when you get synergized, it feels really good. You're like, man, oh, this seems overwhelming. I can only deal with this. And then your partner comes in. I almost said opponent comes in and just like sweeps the other ones across the board. That feels really satisfying. I think that's why I ended up putting it this high on my list. Just because of that experience. But yeah, Spirit Island is great, super crunchy. It's just dealing with area that is expanding. It's very pandemic-like in terms of there are problem spots on the board that you then have to deal with. And so dealing with those things and wiping them away, I find very fun and exciting. And I'm always excited to get this back to the table.
Yeah, I love how you described it, Chris. I feel like it should be on the box now. Spirit Island is the trust fall of board games. I think that's, yeah.
No,
right?
the tagline I like better is a meaty puzzle to share with friends.
Oh,
that's my favorite.
Yeah,
thing
you're
that
right.
Chris said.
because
that
I
needs
will
to be a game by itself. That like a meaty puzzle to share with friends, and it's like literally a meat puzzle. I can't get that image out of my head now.
Well, you know, we were talking about the sweats earlier. There you got the meat sweats.
The meat
There you
sweats,
go.
yeah.
There you
Oh
go.
my gosh, that's totally gonna live in my brain for the rest of the day. Great choice, Chris. That's number 7, Spirit Island, and let's move on to number 6. Ray, what do you got for us?
Oh God, it's back to me already.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm used to like making some coffee while Richard talks.
That's
I know, but we
It's back
bullied
to
him
me
out of the
again.
building.
Exactly.
No wonder Richard likes co-op
Speaking of
games.
bullying earlier. Yeah, okay. So my next one, kind of keeping the theme of not what you would call like traditional board games by any stretch of the imagination. My number 6, or our number 6, is Micro Macro Crime City, which is basically Where's Waldo, the movie, the game. I love this game so very much. It is basically one giant map. That's it. And you are given varying sets of mysteries that you have to solve. Like, for example, what happened to Hat Man? And you are going to find where Hat Man started his day. And so the map is basically various kind of snapshots of a day throughout time. So you'll be able to find Hat Man here and watch him go and get groceries or whatever. And then they'll give you leading questions as you work through the case. Like the next thing is like, why does Hat Man hate his wife? And you have to follow him throughout his day to find out why Hat Man hates his wife.
I know.
And ultimately,
talk about trauma.
yeah, right. This game does have a couple of moments that are kind of dark, so I wouldn't recommend it for kids necessarily. I mean, it is called Micro Macro Crime City, so there are various types of crimes that you are solving.
I've had neighbors play it with their kids though. I think
Yeah.
because of the Weird Waldo aspect. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't have kids. I don't want to be responsible. You do what you want to do. I just had to say that, but there's crime involved. But yeah, they're really fun, and a lot of the mini questions that you're solving throughout the case are kind of like up to interpretation. Like, why does Hat Man hate his wife? You have to go find like where they're arguing in the street, and then you have to follow the wife. Like, oh, you find out that the wife is cheating, and it's a really fun story that comes together. It involves you and however many friends squinting over this giant map. And like, yes, you could play it solo, but it's so fun to play with other people and have one person follow Hat Man and one person follow Hat Man's wife and be like, she's sleeping with the baker. And then it's this whole thing. And it's such a big map that it genuinely takes you a really long time to do it yourself. It's really, I find it's a much more enjoyable experience with multiple sets of eyes on the map. And then it ultimately will bring you to a final conclusion of like, what happened to Hat Man? And it's like maybe his wife shot him or whatever. I don't know.
Wow.
Hypothetically.
There was a gun under the baker's hat the whole time.
There
the
it
whole
is.
time. And it's so they're always fun.
Murdered by Hat.
Murdered by Hat. So yeah, that's Micro Macro Crime City. I believe this won the Spiel a few years ago, and there's been more versions of it since. I haven't played Full House or any of the other ones. But the original game, it was just it won the Spiel for a reason. It was so unique and different, and it really is. Again, it's an experience less so than a board game. But if it wins the Spiel, then I count it as a board game enough. So yeah,
that's a board game.
It's
a board game.
It's definitely a game. Yeah, this is a great call, Ray. I really enjoyed this. What Michelle and I did for our game, we literally just took the Micro Macro map and taped it to the wall in our hallway. So we would just look there, use a little magnifying glass and just whenever we're passing through the hall, oh, did you see this or that? So I really enjoyed it. I think it's a lot of fun, and I can see why it won the Spiel. It's very accessible, and but you're right about there are some dark moments on that map. So yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I guess it depends on
with caution. I mean, they flag them, right?
Yeah.
They're flagged as like adult content or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to be responsible for what anyone
exactly.
I
does.
want to read the book. Why does Hatman hate his wife? That's what I'm still focused. I want to see the diary entries. I really, yeah. I need to know everything about Hatman, the twists and the turns. What happened? Why did she shoot him? Well, it's who knows? How many hats did he have? Did his parents
to
know
come up with
they
a
were
name like
setting him up?
Hatman?
Yeah. For a lifetime of being, drawn to hats. I have so many questions.
How
about
many hats do you think
Hatman.
you'd need to have to gain
called
the nickname
Hatman?
Hatman, yeah.
Or
over at least 50.
Over 50? All right.
over 50.
Yeah.
Tell us in the comments.
Tell us
How
in
many
the
hats
comments.
do you need to be
Yeah.
deemed Hatman?
And please give us your best Hatman fan fiction. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
We want to see those
Please,
in the
oh God,
comments, folks.
please.
Click
you
on
tell
there.
us, why did Hatman hate his wife?
Yeah. And it's up to you. Like, maybe your story will be in the next Micro Macro
There you go.
Now, that would be
expansion.
cool.
We never know
Oh
what
my
we
God.
could happen.
my
Hashtag
God.
justice for Hatman.
That's
That's what we need. Hashtag justice for Hatman.
Oh, I love it.
If you are playing Micro Macro, though, I saw this on Board Game Geeks, like game night. They had these little translucent tokens, and those I've played with. And so they're different colors. And so you can place them out on the board, and it's like you're following Hatman gets the green, and then you have like an orange for Hatman's wife in their consensual non-monogamous relationship. That's the spoiler alert. Then why? That's the red herring. That's the red herring.
Oh no.
Who knows why now? We don't know. But I really like that really elevated my experience of playing Micro Macro. And I would never play without those because it's just so fun. Like you lose track of it going back. And so that way you can just like really relive the story as you're going through.
That's genius.
That is
when I get the expansion, I'll have to play with that.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that.
Yeah, that's genius. But yeah, there's not much more to say about this. This is just a really fun activity. If you like kind of more experiential board games like me, this is a must play. It's super easy, super simple. You can play with all ages. You can play with a ton of people too. Again, it really doesn't have. It's as many people as you can fit around a table can be involved in it and enjoy. I just like looking at it too. Like it's just fun to just parse it and scan it. It's really fun. And one of my favorite things is that you have these mysteries that you're trying to solve, right? Like, so Hatman will have a continuous story from when he exits his apartment to when he gets shot by his wife. But also everyone else in this town, there's so much thought put into it. Every character, you can follow them from start to finish in their day, even if they are never relevant for any of the stories. I just love. It's just like it's fictional people watching. It's very fun.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Highly recommend.
That's why we loved having it on the wall for as long as we did. Just just walking through, going to the bathroom or going wherever. It's like, oh, look at this, and just sort of get lost in it. It's really fun.
Totally.
So great choice, Ray. Number 6, a Micro Macro. Let's move on to number 5. This is my choice. I'm all about the cult of the new here, folks, for this list. And for our number 5, our collective number 5, this has been one of my favorite games of this year. It's a game called Landmarks from Floodgate Games. This is absolutely wonderful. It's sort of like Codenames, where you have a single word clues and you're trying to, in this case, guide your fellow adventurers off an island that has traps, curses, and treasures and one exit. So just like in Codenames, I'm giving a one-word clue, and it's up to you all as adventurers to figure out where is this clue supposed to go. If I give you the word, cookie, is it going to go next to lunch or dessert, or is it going to go next to a baker or Hatman or whatever? Actually, it's just one word clue, so Hatman wouldn't be there unless Hatman's one word. But anyways,
Hatman's one word.
Oh, Hatman is one word. Okay, so would you put the cookie
sure.
next to Hatman, or would you put I don't know, adultery? Apparently would be next to Hatman. But you have a limited number of clues because that represents your water supply. So you have 7 tiles, and if you're starting to run out of tiles, I need to direct you over to where the water is. And again, just like in Codenames, I'm the only one that knows where all the stuff is, and it's up to me to give you the perfect clues to guide you around the island. And hey, if you hit a curse, then darn it, you can't leave the island until I get you to find the amulet, which will cure the curse. It's a wonderful game. I just explained it in like less than a minute, and the game takes maybe 15 minutes to play. I played this at least a dozen times since it came out earlier, actually, I don't even know if it's out yet. Technically, it
came out at Gen Con.
At Gen Con, right? And then
it was
I think
available at Gen Con.
It's available at Gen Con. Full release
Might not have a
should be
release,
in September, I believe. But
Yeah.
It's been a hit with everyone I've played with it. I've played it at 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, and it works wonderfully. There is actually a team mode where you can play competitively, Ray. But
There
it is
is?
yeah.
Nobody's
yeah.
talking about that.
Yeah,
What?
there are 2. You can play as 2 teams, and you're trying to race off the island. I find it the cooperative play
yeah.
is fantastic, just
Look
like
how
code
you
names.
just really
Yeah.
sit right up in your seat.
Yeah, Ray's all excited
sold.
now.
No, because literally, I watched this. I watched the coverage of this game leading up to Gen Con, and I was like, man, this sounds great. I'm bummed that it's only cooperative. Maybe I just can't read, and I didn't see the team based option.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is.
That's so exciting.
It's
oh my god.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so good. And like you start with the green cards, which are like the basic game cards. I think those are a really good challenge. Those red cards that they have, I think it's red, or is it? I don't know if it's yellow or orange. I forget which one, but the more difficult ones are freaking impossible. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how people do this. It's like you're literally surrounded by traps everywhere. But then there is that cooperative gameplay or competitive gameplay where 2 teams face off against each other and try to make it off the island. I think this is an awesome game. I've loved it for the last few months, and I don't see it going away, honestly. I think it's going to be a mainstay in my collection. That's why I selected it for our number 5, Landmarks.
Oh, I'm so glad you picked this game. I genuinely did not know about the team-based mode. That is how I will now be getting this game, and that's how I'll be playing. Because what I was really excited about this, because it seemed like a better implementation of Mystic Paths. I don't know if anyone's played that. It was it's a similar concept, but this seems just like more interesting. It did a similar thing, right, where you're doing hexagon paths,
Yep.
and there are everything's like a single word, and you're trying to give clues. It's very similar to this, but it never really took off. And I've played it a few times, didn't really hit for whatever reason. This just feels like it's a little bit more gamey, a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm pumped that there's a team mode. Not to spoil this co-op list that we're talking about, but I'm genuinely very excited to learn that.
Yeah, definitely give that one a shot, Ray. I think you'd dig it. I mean, the gameplay is just so strong.
It hits that code. It looks like it does hit that Codenames itch, but just in a new
Yeah.
pattern or in a new package, and it doesn't have the same paralysis, and Codenames can be kind of a slower game and less visually interesting, and it just looks like it does a lot that you're missing if Codenames is your only like word game in your collection.
Some people use the term, I don't really like to use the term game kills another game, but a lot of people I've heard, they said it's a Codenames killer. I'm like, you know what? I may agree with that. But
that's cool.
I need to play it some more. I really love this one. But let's move on to our number 4 game, and it's back to Chris for number 4 on our cooperative games list.
All right, I'm very excited about this game because this one could have the tagline "Trust Fall the board game." I feel like this is more. This is more of a Trust Fall the board game than Spirit Island is, for sure. So Spirit Island's just earning that meaty, sweaty time with some pals.
Meat puzzle to share with your friends.
Yeah. The slap each other with bologna all evening with some friends.
Whoa!
And with some sweaty meat, right? The meat sweats, the sweats. A nice meaty puzzle. No, that's not this one. This one is an old standby in my collection. I was thinking about.
I gotta go. I have somewhere else to be. I don't. Jeez.
I was thinking about how what was the most funny string of words that I could string together about meat, and bologna had to be in there. And then I figured, I'm like, I'll just wing it.
Of course.
But this one came out in 2010. We're going down the Board Game Geek. It's 539 on Board Game Geek right now, but it is number 1 in my heart. And this is a fantastic game at all player counts as well. Plays 2 to 5 players. And that is the simple. You will like this game, Ray, because it deals with communication restrictions.
Love it.
It's Hanabi. I don't know if you like Hanabi, but I'm just going to take a guess that you like Hanabi. Hanabi is the best. It's my favorite co-op game of all time, again because of the co-op nature and what it causes the group to do, right? What it causes the group to feel, how it causes the group to interact with each other because of that limited communication. Hanabi's just fantastic. I've played this so much. It changes so much too at 2 players to 5 players. You're just building this hand of these fireworks by playing cards 1 to 5 in a specific color, but you can't see your hand, so you have to hint to your teammate, and you only have a limited number of hints. So that's why it is the Trust Fall the board game, because you are reaching out and you are saying, hey, I'm giving you this very specific clue, and then it's on my turn. I'm like, well, I just have to assume they meant this. Do they mean me to play it? Do they mean me to discard it? Am I supposed to save it for later? I don't know, but I'm going to take a leap. I'm going to take a leap of faith. And then when you get that communication working with each other, it feels so good. I also love Hanabi. I played this when I was at KublaCon. I played this with a complete stranger, and he had Hanabi, and he was just sitting around. I was waiting for like an event to start, and he was also around. He's like, "Oh, you want to play a quick game?" I was like, "Yeah, I just have to go do this thing, but like I play." He's like, "Well, do you know Hanabi?" I was like, "I know Hanabi." He's like, "Oh, I know Hanabi." And we were both like, we are very confident with Hanabi. And then we played a 2-player game and we crashed and burned. It was horrible. We did so poorly. And I loved that about it, because we were both so confident in how we played and how like that co-op and how that communication had been developed with other partners. But then going with people who didn't have that shared language, we really crashed and burned. And I was like, this is so exciting to me, and so like representative of how it can shape a group. And yeah, I just think it's a really awesome cooperative experience, bringing people together. And every group you get will think a little bit differently, will prioritize things a little bit differently, will have thought through their own metas a little bit differently. I mean, my meta is correct, but I'm never going to tell you what that is, because that would break the game. But yeah, it's just a really, really solid game, and I think it's great. It's my number 1. It's our number 4.
Yeah.
Because I am the worst out of this group of 4, so I get number 4.
I love Hanabi. It's been a while since I played this, but I remember it being early on in my board gaming journey, where I was started to see all the other cooperative games that were not pandemic, and it was so fresh and like, wow, this is really interesting. Like, I can't see my cards. Well, this is so weird to me. Again, as a poker player, I'm like, I need to see my cards, but then now I've got to rely on other people. It's a fantastic game. There's a reason why it's still being published to this day. It's evergreen title, right? But
Absolutely.
yeah. Limited communication though, Ray. That's your jam, right?
Yes. So I think Hanabi's been on one of these lists before, and I think I've mentioned I've never played Hanabi, and that is explicitly the fault of the Brothers Murph,
Really?
who talk about how they've broken it because they like have like a language that they use, and for whatever reason that got in my head of like, oh, the game is solvable. I can't not to call them out, but it is absolutely up my alley. That Nick and Mike got in my head of like, oh well, apparently you can really, I can't remember which one, but one of them loves it and one of them's like, it's broken, you can just like memorize like kind of a language, which is like cool in its own way, but if that's not like what the game is trying to do, if you're not supposed to kind of do that, then that got in my head. But the more I've heard, because Chris has talked about it before, the more I hear Chris talk about it, and it's like if you approach it with this mindset of like, we're not going to like establish a set. I'm not going to tell you my meta.
Otherwise it's stupid. It's like, well, what's the point of holding your cards so you can't see them?
It's not like explicitly doing it, but like if you play with the same person enough, it eventually like
but that I think is part of I think that's part of the
Right.
enjoyment, is you develop that language and you find out together like what are the ways that you can become efficient, right? Like what are the ways at which like your cluing back and forth can reach that peak efficiency that you need when you incorporate like the wild cards and the different colors. Because as you go up, there's cards that appear as every color. And so if I'm like, that's blue and that's blue, you're like, okay, that's blue. And I'm like, that's red. And you're like, well, you just said it was blue.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
No, I definitely want to try it at some point.
Yeah. Cool. That was number 4, Hanabi. Great choice. Let's move on to number 3, and we're going back to Ray.
Oh my goodness. All right, bam, blam. Yeah, so my next one is a game I've talked about before, I think a couple times, so I will not bore you all by talking about it for too long, but this is a passive-aggressive game of cohabitation called Decorum, and I love it. I've talked about how it's like my favorite co-op game, I think, before at some other point. I adore this game. The real quick rundown of it is you and however many people you're playing with, I believe it's 2 to 4, are various types of cohabitators. So you might be a couple, you might be roommates, you might be bandmates, and you're trying to decorate your communal spaces in a way that makes you all happy, but in classic cohabitating style, you can't directly tell the other person what you want. The only thing you can do is passively aggressively communicate. So for example, let's say my character absolutely hates blue paintings that are on the second floor. I don't like no blue paintings on the second floor, and the kitchen has to be painted green. some combination of elements like that. And every round, each person's going to change something in the house. So they might add a blue painting, they might paint a wall, they might remove a lamp, they might swap out like a decoration of some kind, right? And all I can do in response to that is to go, oh, I love that. That's great. Or, I don't really care. Or that is the worst thing you've ever brought into this house. How dare you? You can't say why, but it's this fun deduction puzzle of you're trying to figure out what the other person's preferences are, what's the pattern of things that the other person hates. And it's just really fun. It's limited communication. It's a really unique puzzle that changes a lot depending on who you're playing with, because it's not a role-playing game, but they do give you like a little bit of story to latch onto. So I do think it's kind of fun to get in the spirit of like cohabitating and play up these characters a little bit. And you can get really fun and creative with how you insult someone's choices and stuff. I just think it has a sliver of creativity to it in that regard that I find really fun. And the limited communication is great.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've talked about this game a lot. I think it's fun if you like deduction games. I tend to not like, weirdly, I don't tend to love competitive deduction games. I don't like the just who can do the puzzle faster and better.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like a puzzle where there's a right answer and like a true deduction style. And
like
so
Cryptid?
cooperative.
Have you played Cryptid?
Yeah, I didn't love it. I don't like the search for Planet X, that kind of stuff where there's like a solution and everyone's just trying to get to it faster. There are some exceptions to that rule. Like I like Alchemists and stuff, but I really like it in the cooperative format with that limited communication, a tiny tinge of role playing. Yeah, that's Decorum.
I love that you pointed out the whole role playing thing, because I've played this game several times, and every single time it's always involves some type of role playing. And these are
just like a little bit,
right, very light role playing. Especially, it's really neat to see people who don't really play role playing games totally get into it. And just the whole it's always so funny, the whole passive aggressiveness of it. It's hilarious.
It's very well themed.
It
I
really
would
is.
say another problem with like
kiss.
deduction games is I'm like, oh, I'm just sitting here, I'm solving a puzzle that like there's something about the theme of this, how it ties into the like everyone's had a roommate where you don't feel like you can directly tell them what you like. It's such a well integrated theme.
Totally.
And it's got a really clean art style, and
but at least you can tell that roommate, oh, I hate your stinking guts for bringing that in my life.
At least, thank God you have that.
What I think is really cool about just your picks in particular, Ray, is that you do have like some internal crossover, since as we know, if we look at Micro Macro, you can see in Hatman's house, there is a box of Decorum, and that might be why the wife ended up shooting. Or it could be a red herring. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. It could be a red herring.
Absolutely.
Oh, nice one, Chris. All right, so that's our number 3, Decorum. Let's move on to our final 2 picks. I've got number 2. This is our group number 2. This is another recent game that I absolutely fell in love with. It is a game called Sky Team. I think this game is absolutely brilliant. This is a cooperative 2-player game where you're flying a plane, and you're doing it through dice placement. You roll your dice secretly, and then you're going to place them one at a time on the different parts of your control panel. Hopefully that, you have enough speed, the landing gear is down, your flaps are down, and, or flaps are up, I forget. And, hopefully you're not going to crash into other planes because you've called in the radio tower. I love everything about this. The theme is perfect. Once again, the limited communication is perfect. And I've had so much fun with this. And fun fact, folks, you can actually play the solo. There's a solo variant that someone came up with on BGG. It's super easy. So you can fly the friendly skies by yourself, or like when you fly Gaviola Airlines, you can crash by yourself. Because I've crashed this game so many times on so many different levels, and yet I keep coming back. It's not easy, right? It's a challenge, and I love that about this. But the gameplay is so smooth, and I think it's fantastic. That's why it's our collective number 2, Sky Team.
Yeah, I can say this is truly a collective number 2. This was on my list too. I think this was originally like my number 3 or something, and you probably ranked it higher. But this game is fantastic. It's a great. This is such an obvious. I think someone in chat early on was like, "Oh, Sky Team has to be on here." It's so in the current. Yeah, it's so in the current discourse with the Spiel win actually, which is incredible. It's just. Yeah, I also see this going on to be a classic and an evergreen. It's that limited communication. I watched the board game. Oh, Board Game Ramblings, or who was it? I watched someone who was just like, this is the most passive aggressive dice communication. They described it like that. And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm going to put this 2 here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to really hope you know what I mean when I put this 2 here.
Right.
Like, that communication element is why I give this the co-op, the patented Ray co-op pass of like, you're okay. You can stay.
Yeah.
You've got silly communication problems.
Yeah.
You can stay.
And like the other games that have passed your test, right? This also gives me the meat sweats, right? Like, I mean, it's like, come on, we got to land this plane. We're so close. And why did you put that 4 there? You needed to put your 1, whatever. But yeah, it's really tense, and it really does. I think it does a wonderful job of integrating theme and mechanics, right? I mean, yeah, it's just dice placement, but you have their little control panel of the plane. Every single thing makes sense. You have your altitude, you have the fuel in some cases, and you have all the other things that you need to make sure everything's lined up just right for that perfect landing. But yeah, it's so good. I love this game.
Yeah, this one won the 2-player death match that I had in over the course of a bunch of 2-player games facing off against each other, and I played it. I've played it now since because last time it was brought up on this list. I hadn't played it, but now I've played it a couple times with my partner, and she's like, "Yeah, you can get this one." Nice. I was like, "All right, there you go." Like it's just like it's a nice chill. It doesn't overstay its welcome. You can play a couple rounds. I quite enjoy it.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that's another thing too. I love the fact that it's only like a 20-minute game or so. It knocks it out of the park as far as that is concerned. But hey, we've gotten through almost all 10. Let's see. We've got one more person join us for this list, folks, through the magic of a video. Richard's got some thoughts on our picks and also the number 1 on the list. So let's turn it over to Richard.
Okay, folks. That was a great list, was it not? I'm really happy with all of them. Before we get to the number 1 on the list, let me do a few caveats. First of all, in case Ruel hasn't mentioned it earlier, this is the 3rd time that a top 10 co-op list has appeared on my channel. I did one a decade ago, and then I did one half a decade ago with Ruel, by the way. And so I've already got 20 amazing co-op games I have talked about in the past. So today I only want to talk about games that haven't been on those previous lists. So actually, 3 of the ones that they already talked about, 2 from Chris and 1 from Ruel, were already on my previous list. Specifically, Pandemic, or specifically Legacy Season 1, greatest game of all time as far as I'm concerned, made it onto my original list. But Chris also had Spirit Island, that made it onto one of my earlier top 10 lists, and then Ruel had Paperback, which also made it on to my top 10 list. So of everything that was just talked about, I would say those are my 3 favorites. Although Ray, if you dig kites, you have to check out Skyrockets. It takes the great gameplay of kites and just improves on it in every way. Imagine kites, but with a series of, I forget, like 20 or 30 different rules variants, kind of like how the crew keeps reinventing itself. Oh, you got to give it a go. You're going to love it. And, what else did they talk about? Chris, if you love Hanabi, you have to check out Beyond Baker Street. Imagine Hanabi, but with a real theme that makes sense, because players are all actually, investigators trying to outfox Sherlock Holmes and solve the mystery, but we're also in competition with each other, which is why we can't, we don't really understand what all the clues mean, so we can't just give perfect communication. It's so smart. And again, with a ton of variability and variety. Imagine Hanabi with special powers. Beyond Baker Street is amazing. What else did you guys have? Ruel, Sky Team, Ray, Decorum, let's see, Micro Macro, and then Ruel, Landmarks. Oh, Ruel, you are definitely cult of the new. There are older co-op games out there, but an amazing list, folks. But better than all of them is our number 1. Although before I get to that, I'm just getting started, folks. So there is an extended edition of this show, right? If you go ahead and follow the links down in the show notes, after we're done here with the show, you can just jump to the post show where I will give you my newest full top 10. I'm going to tell you about the 10 best co-op games that have come out in the last half decade since the last time I did this. Right now, I'm only telling you the best of the best, but then there is a lot more, and I'm sure the rest of the gang will have more as well, although maybe not Ray. I know this was like fingernails on a chalkboard trying to get her to come up with more co-ops. Maybe Maybe she'll talk about the art project in the extended. She really should. But anyway, the best of the best new co-op game that has come out in the last half decade has to be, by far, there's absolutely no competition at all. It is Daybreak. From designers Matt Leacock and Matteo Manapace, this just won the Kennerspiel for Best Game of the Year. And I completely agree. It was my number 1 ranked game of 2023. It is my number 12th highest ranked game of all time. And the more I play it, the more it climbs. Just even talking about it right now makes me want to be playing this so much. The best way I could sum up the gameplay here is imagine a co-op terraforming Mars. Except we're not trying to terraform the red planet, we're trying to save our blue planet. And it's all about engine building, having hands of cards, using these cards as multi-use to either make new projects that give us different ways to fight climate change, or they can instead be tucked under existing projects to make them more powerful, or they can be discarded to give us the resources we need to run our various engines. Every card is so laden with potential, and it's so hard to figure out. And then when you're playing co-op, there are so many opportunities, so many powers where players can share cards with each other, or help each other out with their individual problems, because everybody represents a different continent on the world, and we have our own different problems, our own different strengths and weaknesses. The game is absolutely phenomenal, and more than anything else we've talked about today, it is a game about true cooperation, because cooperation is the only way our species is going to get out of the situation we have put ourselves and our planet in. So the spirit of cooperation is woven throughout, and it's really strongly represented in the gameplay. And if all that weren't enough, this, I've got to say, is probably the most innovative new game in years, with the way that it integrates a living, evolving rule book and QR codes on all the cards. So if you're ever stuck on something, you don't have to dig through a 20-page rule book trying to figure out, right, how's this supposed to work here? You can just look at the card with your phone's camera, and boom, just go directly to a web page devoted to that card and all the special powers on it. And you can see right there on the cards, the QR codes don't even stand out. They're really nicely put in, graphically. Everything about this game is amazing. I like it. It's my 12th highest ranked game of all time. It is the best new co-op game to come out in the last half decade. And don't take my word for it, folks. It won the Kennerspiel, and deservedly so, which is the highest, most prestigious award in all of board gamedom. And it's our number 1 on the list. But like I said, folks, follow the links down in the show notes. I've got 9 more amazing games from the last half decade to tell you about. And I'm sure the rest of the gang has some more as well. So back to you guys.
Wow, yeah, I need to play Daybreak. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I have not seen a copy around. I don't know if they're readily available yet. I just haven't been able to pick one up, and none of my friends have either. But this looks fantastic. I cannot wait to play this, and I can see why, based on everyone's reactions, why this would be on our list. Ray, Chris, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I just blue screened.
Oh.
I haven't played Daybreak. I have no thoughts on Daybreak. I've heard good things about it, but I've never played.
Got it.
I'll give some final thoughts, Ruel.
Thank you,
Do
Chris.
it.
The 3 of us together, the 4 of us together, creating
cut the line.
a beautiful,
Get us off the air.
A beautiful list together
No.
is one of my favorite co-op games to do.
God.
Really, and
The co-op
also
game is the friends we made along the way.
That's exactly what I was about to say. The real co-op
sorry,
game
didn't take it from me.
is the friends that we made along the way.
I'm sorry.
Like all
I'm
of
sorry.
you in the comments, I'm just so happy to be communally creating the wonderful story of Hatman and why he hates his wife. So again, that's my favorite co-op game, Hatman and Why Does He Hate His Wife, coming to stores in 2025 from the Op.
I'd play that game.
You've heard it here first. The Op has picked up the publishing rights. I'm giving them first right of refusal here, and we'll see it happen. No, that's it's kind of fun to start with Matt Leacock and to end with Matt Leacock on the list as well, in terms of that, like moving forward towards that cooperative thing.
Yep.
And what's another great thing cooperating for our community is when Arcane Wonders made Foundations of Rome cheaper.
Yes,
Woohoo!
Foundations
Because
of
I was a big
Metropolis.
fan of that. Like,
Love
I
Same
am
here.
still really stoked for that.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
And
friends.
go watch the extended edition because
Yeah.
we got more to talk about.
That's right. Click on those links below, folks. And again, thanks to Arcane Wonders for sponsoring this episode of the R&R Show. We'll see you next time. Take care. So long. Bye-bye.